Pete, the work is awesome. If you ain't in the Discord, go get in it. I know that's available on your Twitter account. You got the link on there. A lot of people ask us for the link. Just look at Peter Ruiz on Twitter. He's got it in there.
I'll drop it in the comments too.
Yeah, this is your thing. This is your thing because everybody always asks. This is a Peter Ruiz production right there. I am a paying customer, but it is a Pete deal and really good stuff in there. So Pete, I know you've been working hard, getting some information. What are you hearing here on the team and just little tidbits?
Yeah, so I made a new post this morning, and again, guys, I'm sharing a lot of the stuff still on the show. I think it's helping this, getting the information even better for this show. But of course, you're gonna get it first there, and I'm actually gonna drop something else that I kept kind of in the bank, so to speak. Not the bank, you're the bank, but in my memory bank that I'll drop later today as well. But wanted to get into a few things, D, and to me, it's very interesting stuff. It's some stuff that I've talked about earlier this week on some of my posts, but getting some more, doing some more digging, getting some more intel into it. And I want to start with SJ Alfatuli, D, because he's someone that, as the number one center in the country coming in, a lot of high hopes for, obviously, but he had never snapped. And I think both you and I had heard that was a process for him. That was a transition. Learning to snap the football wasn't easy for him in the spring, just being frank with it. But from what I understand, utilizing a new glove, as crazy as that sounds, that's helping him develop there. Something that I actually forgot to put in the post that I'll talk about later. But a couple weeks ago, when the team was off before camp, I saw him in the student rec by himself grinding when a lot of the guys were back home. Obviously he's from far away, so he's not going home for some of these trips. And he was in there by himself in the student rec center in the middle of the summer. He's put on a lot of good weight, but again, as he continues to get the snapping aspect of it down, I think that's when he's going to take the next step. Potentially a redshirt candidate, quite frankly, this year, D. I think it's a battle between him and Nino Francavilla for that, I guess, number 3 center spot, because Ryan Rodriguez, I would say, is the backup center right now.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to the family. I know they listened to the show. I saw him at practice the other day. With SJ. By the way, great stuff. That glove thing that's the Reese tidbit right there. I think when you look at him in high school, he's always been a center prospect because of his size, because of athleticism, because of his flexibility. He just was a prototypical center in a lot of ways. But, and there's a Josh Gross asking, how was he number one center in high school? He didn't snap. He played guard in high school.
Freak.
He was a dominant guard in high school because he was so strong, so quick, so good. They had another center. Now SJ is a better center prospect than the center they had, but I think the guy that they had at center was not as good at guard as SJ was at guard. So to have the best overall team, they had SJ at guard and this guy at center, and I forgot where he signed. He signed somewhere. I'll have to look it up. He was a good player, a D1 player, but SJ was a better guard than this guy was a guard. So SJ then played guard, even though his future in college was most likely at center. So he wasn't snapping. And then he goes to Miami. He's obviously, I don't say undersized, because undersized suggests he's not going to get to where he used to be, but he came in light because a lot of these super athletic centers come in light. I think back to Parker Brailsford. This is a comparison I always use, who was at Washington, then followed DeBoer to Alabama. Now he's probably the best center in the country. He was like 260 when he got to Washington, redshirted, then as a redshirt freshman, started on that team, then went to the championship. Then he went to Alabama, and he became what is now possibly the best center in the country. So these light guys, sometimes they need to gain weight, period. Add in the fact that he's not snapping in high school. Now he has to learn how to snap. Add into the fact that he's not always a snap, but he has to learn how to snap confidently enough to be explosive and be able to deal with these much bigger players. Because it's not just snapping it and getting to the quarterback. It's about snapping it and still getting the force and the explosion necessary to get your blocks while snapping. So if you're worried about snapping because you're learning snapping at the highest levels, you're not going to have the same explosiveness or just power out the gate because you're thinking, right? When anyone does anything athletic, when you're thinking, you're not as powerful and athletic as you normally are. So put all together, and I think spring was a learning experience. Now you're seeing like Pete reported, steps here in fall and August camp. And I think when this guy gets weight on him, when he gets really comfortable snapping to it to where it's second nature, he's going to be everything you hoped he would be. He's extremely athletic. He's flexible as can be. He's a weight room monster. He works hard. I heard he's a great kid. So add it all up, and I think you have your center of the future, but it's not like Brandon Linder, who played center a little bit in high school and was 300-something pounds and was able to play all over as a freshman, true freshman. I think this is more
It's a position of polish. You got to be very polished to play that spot. And he has a lot more tools than a lot of guys who play that position. But man, give it a year, and I think he's going to be very, very, very good.
Yeah, I'm a fan, big fan. And yeah, man, any more Polynesian players, the better, man. I mean, we can't get enough. These guys they're so hardworking, they're so talented, and they really make your program much, much better. So Pete, what's next on the docket?
So the next thing that I wanted to bring up, we're talking a lot about Dalen Russell, and I think he's made a move, D. But yeah, it's funny because yesterday, as soon as we started talking about Dalen Russell, we got questions about Dante Simpson. Hey, does this mean he's fallen off a little bit? And no, look, that's not necessarily the case. I spoke to someone who probably would still consider Simpson ahead of Russell in the pecking order there. We're not, I'm not calling it a depth chart because there's no depth chart right just yet, but I think it's still trending in that direction. But again, I keep saying this, D, and I think you agree with me as well. We keep talking about DT number 4. When you look at the end of the year, who's going to have the most snaps in terms of like, all right, this is DT1, this is DT2, who's taking the most snaps? DT4 and 5 is probably going to be some combination of Ruben Bain, Hayden Lowe, Armando Blunt, which was emphasized to me that he's going to be playing inside a lot on these pass rushing situations. I've seen did I just say Hayden Lowe? Hayden Lowe, I've seen him slide inside on pass rushing situations. So you have a bunch of options there that ideally you're going to be getting teams in some third and longs and letting those guys tee off. But Dalen Russell's made progress. I still think that Simpson is doing enough to earn some reps this year, though. And by the way, shout out to Q Sports Media, by the way. Been seeing him out there. He's been out there at practice. He does a great job with a lot of the stuff in terms of miking up a lot of these high school guys. Has had some great Josh Moore content. So guys, go follow Q Sports Media.
Yeah, shout out to Q Sports Media. Absolutely great content.
Josh Gross asked me this in the Discord, and I'm going to see if we can get him an answer for this. He's looking for more Sean Taylor jerseys and medium on Miami HTS. So if we can help Josh out there with that one.
I will ask. Those things are hot. We'll do the team store spot here after you're done with the work. But yeah, man, those Sean Taylor throwbacks, those are going fast. And the Ed Reed. I know my son wanted the Ed Reed. But yeah, the Sean Taylors. How ridiculous was that team, man? We're talking about safety, and we had Sean Taylor backing up. Gosh, imagine that guy on this team as a true freshman. He'd be best player in the country.
So go ahead. If you, I don't know if you had something to add to what I just said.
On DT, obviously don't want injuries, but yeah, I agree with what you're seeing. I think a guy like a Blunt, Lowe, Messidor, Bain, all those guys you could see. But I think the top 3 guys, Moten, Blay, Scott, they looked the part. And it was very interesting, Pete. I just want to add this while you're talking about this. So cover 3. So those who don't know, there was a symposium or some kind of like convention for like personnel guys, right? So like,
yeah, it was a recruiting. They were there in Nashville this week. It was a recruiting and player personnel symposium.
Our guys were out there. Basically everybody in that business that didn't have to be in their hometown with the team, they were out there just like, a convention, like a coach's convention, like, conferences you guys might have for work. And there were those media out there. Cover 3 was out there. Bud Elliott on Cover 3, which is a CBS Sports podcast. I like it. I listen to it a bunch. And he said that he was asking everybody about which is someone that you did not get that you wish you got, to the other personnel guys. And he's talking about high-level D1 teams, right? Not like, Mac. Hey, who did you wish you get in the portal? It's more like the power 4 playoff contender teams with budgets. This is how he described it. Asking them who was a player that someone else got that you were like, man, I wish we got that player. Offense, everybody said Eric Singleton. I would agree. I think Eric Singleton is going to be a top 10 pick type, maybe top 20 pick. I think he's elite. I think he's probably, with Jeremiah Smith not eligible and Ryan Williams not eligible, Malachi Tony not eligible, I would say that Eric Singleton is going to be the best receiver in the country as far as draft eligible guys. If I'm missing someone, let me know, but I think he's better than Carnell Tate. I don't know who else is eligible, but I think Eric Singleton will end up, what is it, August 9th? That's my prediction there, that Eric Singleton will be the highest drafted wide receiver in the draft. So obviously he got a lot of answers. Then Bud Elliott basically was saying that Miami landed a defensive player that everybody, the majority of the defensive people said would like that. That's who they wanted, right? I could have sworn that the answer was going to be Xavier Lucas. That'd probably be my answer based on what I've seen from Xavier Lucas. I think he's right there with Eric Singleton, size, speed, freak that can play. He said that the name that came up the most, this is again, other personnel departments, playoff contending teams with big budgets, and including everybody, like everybody, the guys that went to Texas Tech, the guys that went to LSU, Patrick Payton, whatever. He said the most common name he heard, you know what it was? David Blay. David Blay was the name that he heard the most from other teams' personnel departments. And I know you've talked about this in the past, but those who haven't heard it, you have Scouting Connects. You talk about that in the work. You talk about that here. You talk about that in the Discord. What are some of the things you've heard about David Blay from the scouting community?
I mean, right now he's probably like a top 4 round projection. But the tape against the good teams that he played last year stood out. When you're coming from a smaller school, and yeah, Louisiana Tech's not FCS football, but you aren't playing the big boys week in, week out. The scouts are going to take, especially a guy like him who was an all-conference player, right? They're going to, the height and weight, the physicals are important, but they're looking at your tape against, for him, it was Arkansas and NC State, right? Yep. I believe.
Yep.
And he had really good tape in those two, right? So I'm thinking if he has the sort of season he can have, he can move himself up the board here and solidify himself as like a top 100 sort of pick. But he's got to produce. And look, with him, I don't necessarily think the size is like grade A. He's 6'3", 6'4", 305 pounds, but disruptive, right? And strong, right? I think that was the biggest thing that from that Arkansas tape they saw was like he had legitimate play strength, which in the interior is sometimes you can't really, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be blowing up every single play, but he's moving those offensive linemen.
Yeah, it's strength. And then just the way he uses his body is what I've heard. Some guys are just first step monsters. Ahmad Moten, I would say, fits in this category. He beats guys off the first step. He has the most explosive first step, I believe, out of all 3 of those guys, based on what I've
Which is crazy because I would have thought Scott.
And he's up there too. Moten's first step is crazy. But I think with Belay, it's not the pure size, although he's got size. It's not the pure first step, although he has twitch. It's when he gets on guys. You mentioned the play strength, that's part of it. And then also just some guys can just kind of like wiggle around. It's hard to describe. Those, if you know what I'm talking, if you know, it's just like that ability to use your body. Maybe it's for defensive ends, you talk about bend. For defensive tackles, it's just kind of like your leverage, just your ability to work your way into your spots. He has that. They said once contact is made, the best guy is Blay, as far as just kind of getting where he needs to go. So that's a good look. You have Justin Scott, obviously the biggest one, the most athletic one. Ahmad Moten, the first step, most disruptive. So, you have different looks in that room. And then the 4th DT, a lot of guys in the mix, like you said. But I think those 3 are going to be, if they stay healthy, which you pray, that's a position you do not want injuries anywhere in the country. Nobody in the country is. I mean, no one wants injuries anywhere, but everybody's praying that their top 3 defensive tackles stay healthy, because in 2025, nobody has a good 4th DT. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe a promising 4th DT, but no one has a 4th DT that they're confident in. That's just not Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. I don't care who you are. I mean, Georgia just picked up Josh Horton, right? Nobody has a 4th DT they feel good about, because those guys go in the portal. And that's why when you talk to those recruiting guys, that's why they said David Blay's name, because it's not just his talent, it's his position too. So I think everybody's praying they stay healthy with their top three, but we got guys coming up. So Pete, back to the work.
So next one here, and look, this may not be groundbreaking news, but a lot of what I want to do on the work is kind of add context to stuff that's already out there. So earlier this week, we heard Owen Ruskovich, tight end, who, we've both been pretty impressed with since spring as someone who can play a role for this team, right? And I was talking to someone last night who, like I said, Ruskovich was put on scholarship. So former walk-on, now a scholarship player. And Cody Woodall actually singled him out as the hardest worker in that tight end room. And what I found interesting is what I heard is that last year, Ruskovich on his own was getting extra work in as a tackle because he thought that it could help him, get on the field. And I asked this person, well, was there any pathway to him seeing the field? And he said, nope. Not a chance, not a chance in heck that he would have seen the field at tackle, but that gives you an idea of where this guy's head's at, just trying to help the team in any way possible. And also gives you the idea of the sort of player he is, right? In terms of the physical nature of the game and what he likes to do. I think the other day, D, you said he was 6'5". He's listed as 6'7", and I would say he's taller than 6'5". I don't know that he's 6'7", but I think he's definitely big. Like 6'6", and he's listed at 255 also. So legit size there. And it's one thing to have the size, but he knows how to use it and he knows how to play with it. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit, man. It shows you some of the behind the scenes stuff with some of these guys that we don't talk about all that much, but the depth, it highlights some of the depth that this roster has in certain spots.
No question about it. We were the first, I believe, on the bank. We talked about Big Russ back in February, right? And your sources were telling you the same thing at that time. So it's like, you listen to the show, you're going to be plugged into what's happening here with Big Russ, and Pete is doing that extra digging. Yeah, but we got some. I gotta feel like our info gathering right now is on another level now. We got Pete up and fully engaged in work mode, man. We got 2017 Pete on the hunt right now. So what do you think your prime was, by the way? What was your prime when you were really like not sleeping and recruiting? You didn't have your girlfriend at the time?
Probably no. I did have my girlfriend at the time. It was. It
oh really? When did you guys get together?
I've been with my girlfriend since how long? Forever, she says.
Oh, like shout out to the real
almost
star.
10 years.
Shout out to the real star of the relationship. All right.
So it wasn't that holding me back. It was definitely not that. Yeah, I would say 2017, 2018, the Storm 18 class was great.
Storm 18. Yeah, man, I wish that turned out better. It was reported great. I wish the class turned out great. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out too hot. But anyways, man, yeah. So
I do have some recruiting news. I have a couple recruiting tidbits here.
Armando says Pete blushing. Pete blushing.
I'm blushing. They're saying.
But anyways, but Big Russ, man. Just to your point, we mentioned in the spring. Again, this show is the first people talking about Big Russ. This is a real player. This is not a, hey, congrats on you. Here's your scholarship just for being a good guy. This is a guy that's going to help the team, and he fits right in with this tight end group, which is big, physical. They can catch. They got really just tough mentalities, man. I say lunch pail, and that includes Elijah Lofton. These are lunch pail guys, but they also have their own physical talents as well. Ruskovich can catch. He has pretty good hands. He's not just a stiff. I would say if you compare him to McCormick, who really helped us win games, I mean, his hands, I think, are actually better than McCormick. I think he's a better receiver than McCormick. And McCormick helped us win games and have the number one offense.
So, couple recruiting. Well, actually, let me get to this question from Kyle real quick. He says, question about Cole McConaughey. Do you guys think he has the frame to gain weight, maybe 285, 290 to play DT? That's a tough one. He's a big boy. I mean, he's listed at 250, but he looks bigger than that to me, D. I think he's more of a linear athlete from what I've seen. And I think he can win like that, but he's one of those body types I would be careful trying to throw an extra 35, 40 pounds on.
Yeah. I don't think that's the plan with McConaughey. I think there's a place for big defensive ends too. There's nothing wrong with being a 260, 270 pound defensive end, right? There's a value in that, especially if you can still rush the passer. So I think that might be more where he ends up, but he's 19 years old, probably. I mean, second year in college, coming off an injury, so who knows where his body goes. But I don't think that's a situation where they're like rushing to put weight on him or he's rushing to put weight on himself. I agree with you, Pete, on McConaughey, but we'll see. I think he's going to play this year. The reason McConaughey's the guy that got a lot of buzz last year. He played on the defense. He was one of the few guys that played snaps on the defense as a true freshman. But then he got hurt in spring, and you didn't hear from him. And it kind of felt Hayden Lowe was the flavor of the month, which he deserves it because he's a stud. But like you didn't hear as much about McConaughey. Now he's healthy, so he's going to be in the mix, and he's going to. I'm excited to watch him in the scrimmage on Saturday. I think that, or on Sunday. I'm sorry, tomorrow. I think he's going to be excited to get out there.
So recruiting wise, a couple of things here. We've gotten a lot of questions since Brett Kaloje went to USC. About the plans at O-line. And I'm under the impression that they're not in any sort of rush to add a 7th offensive lineman. They were pretty steadfast for a while that Kaloje was the only one that they wanted to add. And I don't get the sense that there's anyone like on the radar right now. And as you know, these senior evaluations do happen, but I think they're very happy with what they have right now. And with Kaloje, just looking at that situation real quick, I tried to kind of get some insight into what happened there. And we said for a while, the week after his Miami visit, like the longer that thing went out, the less likely it was going to be for Miami to get him. Miami was not aware that he'd be taking that Tennessee visit. And then really from what I understand, again, this is stuff that I didn't know at the time. Him and Mark Bowman, USC commit, are like best friends. They're like attached at the hip, which I had no idea that there was that sort of connection there. USC, as stupid as this stuff sounds in recruiting, but USC had them come in on a midweek visit, the only midweek visits they've done all cycle, really hammered home that package deal point. And that was from what Miami thinks, because we talk about it a lot. Oh, well, did this school just throw a bag at him? Like, this wasn't something that Miami thought they lost because of money, right? There's just certain things that recruiting comes down to, and relationships is one of them. Bowman being, again, from what's being described to me, that's his best friend. That was a tough one to overcome.
Yeah, man, it's a shame because I love this guy, as did you, and I interviewed him right after I was there for his interview. I don't think I personally interviewed him, but I was there when he interviewed with Sebastian and everybody in his visit, and he sounded like he was about to come to Miami.
That was the hope that he would pop that next week. They knew he'd be visiting Georgia, but they thought that he'd be committing to them most likely after the Georgia. And then the Tennessee surprise visit came in, and that's when I think the wheels kind of fell off for that recruitment. I will say this: I expect Miami to stay in contact with him. Kenye Pepe, I don't know so much about that one. I've speculated on that one in the past. I think that one's going to be tougher, and I don't know if Miami is currently in communication with him. But Kaloje, I don't see them completely folding on that one.
And look, USC, I don't think is going to be very good this year. This is my personal opinion. I could be dead wrong, but I think their football team, the team that lines up on Saturdays, is going to be pretty bad. Mayava's talented. He's kind of up and down. They lost their best running back to Texas Tech. They lost a couple receivers between Deuce going to FSU, Zachariah Branch going to Georgia. They still have two good ones, but I don't think that their receiving core is as deep as it was last year. Their offensive line stinks. They lost their best offensive lineman, I want to say, to Auburn, I believe. They lost an offensive lineman, their best one, and their offensive line was terrible last year. So I don't think their offense is going to be much better. I think it'll probably be worse. And then defensively, they've been, at dead average for a while. I know they've added a couple guys in the portal, but I'm not too confident in what USC is. They lost Pregnon, their star guard, to Oregon, a rival. So, and then defensively, who did they really add in the portal that you're too excited about at USC? I know they added Keyshawn Stencil from
I like the running back they got from JUCO, Wayman Jordan.
Wayman's, yeah, he's good. Everybody loves Wayman, one of your better clickbait YouTube headlines. But the guy that lost to Texas Tech is a stud. The guy that was originally from Texas. That guy was fast.
I'm forgetting his name. Yeah,
Quentin Joyner, I believe. He's fast.
Joyner.
Yeah. So I don't think, and they were not good last year.
I got Texas Tech in the playoffs this year.
Oh, I know. We're all about the Matador Club, but they're going to be, like, in my opinion, worse than last year or the same. And yeah, you have 30 plus kids coming in high school and you're paying them a fortune. And some of those kids might be bound by the contract, depending what state they're from. Not all. Cologé's in Florida. He's not bound by anything. You go 6-6 and trend down, and Lincoln Riley's getting heat and all this stuff. And those high school guys, how much can they? It's not like they're going to come in and save you. I mean, they're going to take a second to develop. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with USC. I think there's a chance that one could be something that, and like Kyle says, they have an easier schedule that'll help them. I think I could see it where they win their first like 4 or 5 games and they got some hype, but when it goes down, it'll go down fast. They're missing a lot on their call it their big league team like it's baseball, but on their college football team, they have problems. So that's yes, they have help on the way from a high school standpoint, but it's not, imminent. And even when to get there, they got to develop. So USC, I don't think is like, hey, they're going to keep all these guys, is what I'm trying to say. We'll see how it goes.
And then the last recruiting tidbit here. This is one of my favorite parts of the work today, D. I'm going to pull up this video here. Jackson Cantwell, and again, this is something that's out there, right? So this isn't like I'm telling you guys something that you maybe haven't seen before. But essentially, what this is here is Jackson Cantwell working out with Felix Ojo, one of the top tackles in the country, and this is Duke Manyweather. Who is Duke Manyweather? Duke Manyweather is one of the top offensive line trainers in the country. Every year he runs a symposium for linemen called O-Line Masterminds, and that's an invite-only event where most of the top NFL offensive linemen, college offensive linemen are invited to basically, they share ideas. A lot of the NFL vets or guys who are retired are there kind of working in different groups, working on different things. And Cantwell was invited to the event, their O-Line Masterminds event, which takes place in Frisco, Texas, back in early July. So it was like July 10th, 11th. So not only did he get the invite there, but as you see,
by the way, our other guys went too.
Yeah, I know. Was Francis there? Was Markel Bell there? Yeah, I think pretty much the whole O-line was there too as well, right? So again, this is invite only though. This is not like, it's not like, oh, I play offensive line in college, like I want to go to this. Like you have to be invited, and I'm sure Coach Mirabal had something to do with the invite too. I know that there's a relationship there, but what I'll say is this. This is why I find this interesting, right? Duke Manyweather, as an agent, had clients that have trained with him, have done some preparation work with him, have worked out with him, have gone to the O-Line Masterminds events. But at the same time, my guys have been turned down to work with Duke Manyweather. He's very, very selective with who he works out with. Okay, he's working out with the elite of the elite. You look at the list every year of the guys he pressed for the draft; it's all top 3 round players, pretty much. So. Yes, Cantwell's the number 1 recruit in the country, and obviously he's going to want to work with him. That's obvious. But like, this showed me a lot, D, because I know how picky this guy is, having dealt with him. It showed me a lot in terms of what the outlook could be there, man. Very, very good stuff there. And this is the sort of stuff I said it the other day with NIL. It gives these players an opportunity to work with the best of the best right now. And yeah, and guys, no, Canes Cat C asking if he turned on Titus Howard. No, Titus has worked with him. EJ says it's not. It's EJ saying, "All right, Pete, this isn't that big a deal. Dude is a trainer." Guys, he does not work with just anybody. Okay, like this is a significant development, and to have been exposed to this twice now, I think it's a big development because he's going to be coming into Miami in January, like way more ready to go than your normal offensive lineman. This is significant. It really is.
Yeah, and I think just the fact that this guy's doing it, right? I mean, if I won't say the exact number, but let's just say a sizable number of NIL coming my way, and I was a rising senior in high school, and it was August 9th, and I knew I was about to start two-a-days or whatever they're allowed to do these days, prepare really hard practices in the sun, getting ready for the high school football season. I just finished track season. I just finished recruiting. Man, I would be on the Lake of the Ozarks there in Mississippi, enjoying life, man. You know what I mean? On a boat. And this guy's out here doing extra work. So I think that just tells you kind of what he's about and where his mindset is. He didn't need to do this. This is all extras. I'm sure there's not something that Miami made him do. Clearly, he wants to do this kind of thing. So shout out to Jackson Cantwell. By the way, almost 1,500 on live right now on this Saturday morning, man. So like and subscribe to the show. Check out Pete's Discord right there on Twitter. He is it's awesome, man. Like I said, I am a member. Anything else, Pete, you want to drop us with?
No, that's it. EJ continuing to say it's not a big deal. He said Duke's not turning down a 7-year-old 6'9" tackle. That looks good for him. He's working with 2 tackles in the country right now in high school, it looks like. So Miami got 1 of them.
With the other one, 5 stars going to Texas Tech for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
By the way, they look kind of skinny. Jackson Campbell definitely looks bigger than Ojo in those videos.
Yeah, but pumped up, man, for him. I just think he's going to come in. He's going to come in very ready, and from what I understand, has a pretty good grasp of Miami's offensive scheme already too. So,
absolutely, I'll tell you what Felix Ojo can do more of. If he could use more of, I should say. How about some Cuban food, right? How about the best Cuban food on the planet? You're trying to bulk up, get ready for the season. Islas Canarias Cuban Express, #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, 40 plus years and running as the top dog in the city, in the country, and consider the food that's coming out of Cuba with their terrible ingredients and terrible government, the best Cuban food on the planet. That is Islas Canarias, established 1977, 7 different types of croquetas, all kinds of sandwiches, including the classic Cuban sandwich, medianoche, you name it, pan con bistec, pan con lechon, which is pig. They got everything, steak, pig, chicken. You want it, they got it, beef, empanadas, all those, the sweet pastries, the coffees, the juices, anything that is authentic Cuban, they got it. Plus, right? It's Cuban plus because they got everything. They got tequeños, they got Korean flavors, they got vegan options. If you want the very traditional, you got that. If you want to branch out, they got that too. Never a dull moment with Islas Canarias Cuban Express, #1 Cuban restaurant on planet Earth. And man, I'm getting hungry. I might do that to maybe tomorrow after the scrimmage. I might head out to Islas Canarias. I know we got a lot of people in the chat. I feel like every single day we hear people in the chat talking about going to Islas Canarias. Coach Checo mentioning Jared Saltalamacchia. Salty. We talked about this yesterday, Coach. I think it's a big time hire. And I like the 2 tidbits I said is the coach that Saltalamacchia, he coached Griffin Hugas in the Cape last year. Hugas spoke very highly about Saltalamacchia, leading to his huge jump in production from last season in Cincinnati to the Cape. He credits Salty with a lot of that. Also, Saltalamacchia this summer, coach TJ Coates, the right-hander from Nebraska, who I think is going to start for us. Based on the timeline of when Saltalamacchia started talking to Miami and then when Coates committed, I bet he probably sent Coates to Miami. So there's a guy that he likes the talent and told JD, hey, this is the guy you want. So that's a good kind of thing to keep in mind when you look at Coates and his potential. Armando, Islas on Sunday morning, August 31st is going to hit. That's absolutely right. Although you don't got to wait for that. You can go right. You can go this Sunday morning or this Saturday morning, but absolutely.